Welcome to the space between heaven on earth. This is a companion podcast to Awakening Heaven on Earth, created as a space for reflection, conversation, and lived experience. Here, we enter the pause between knowing and becoming, between insight and embodiment, between heaven and earth. These conversations are not about answers or conclusions. They are about presence, about listening, about reasoning together, about meeting one another honestly in the unfolding journey of awakening. I'm your host, Sherri Keys. Again, welcome and thank you for entering the space between with us. Welcome to the space between. In our last episode, we explored what it means to listen with the heart, to begin trusting in a deeper inner knowing. And today we're going to step into something that shapes nearly every part of our experience, even if we don't notice it, and that is time. So this episode is called The Unity of Time, Releasing the Past, Trusting the Future, and Living in the Now. Because so much of our lives is spent moving between two different places, remembering the past and anticipating the future. And yet, the only place that life actually happens is right here, right now. So today we're exploring what it means to experience time differently, not as something that we're trapped in, but something that we can really begin to relate to with a much higher and a much greater awareness. So Joel, Joe, Sherri, welcome back. I'm going to ask very quickly, when you think about time, do you feel like it's something that you're moving through, or is it something that is moving you?
I think honestly, we always say it feels like we're moving through time. It's hard. You have to really sit and go into the abstract to see it differently. It feels like we're moving forward, but there is, time is kind of funky that way. But actually, you can go back in time different ways. You can go forward in time, mental projections, things like that. But yeah, I think overall it feels like we're going through time, going forward. But we'll hit on that here, I'm sure, in the next little bit.
Yeah. So time's a weird thing, isn't it? You use it as a number to measure things. You use it as a value to explain things. Yet, as you get older, people keep telling you how you're aging, which is a function of time as well. But I don't feel old. People say it's just a number. It's a weird phenomenon, and I know we're going to get into this as well as we keep talking. But as somebody that delved into the sciences through school, I was taught to see it as a measurement, as a thing that kind of defines so many different things. As somebody that is in the process of awakening, I see it as a little bit differently now. So this is also something that is in flux right now, right inside of me, and fascinating to keep seeing change as I change internally.
I guess this was a rough Very difficult one for me. I do lack control in this space, so it'll be interesting to see how, as we talk through this topic, um, kind of where my thoughts evolve from there. But I feel like time controls me right now in my life, which is interesting because it's always like, well, you can't stop Father Time. And as you get older, they're like, oh, now you're looking at, your life in terms of how many summers versus, the here and the now. So time is one of those things that you never feel like, for me, I have enough of, but I never feel like I'm ever in the moment where I'm enjoying the moment. And that's, I'm still on that journey. So that's where my perspective is right now.
Well, that's going to add a lot of richness to the conversation, right? We've said this in many different conversations we've had. We're all in different places. We have different experiences. And to me, that's what makes this podcast so real. I'm not an expert in time. I don't think any of us are subject matter experts on time. But guess what? We all experience it and have opinions and thoughts and experiences to share. So to me, that's what makes this so valuable, is that opportunity to talk through these things. We're not going to come to a conclusion about any of it, but there are some things that specifically have hit me. I was imprisoned by time.
Yeah.
I can remember I would be driving to work in the mornings, and if I was not at a specific place by a specific time, I'd get angry.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's not healthy. That is not a healthy relationship to something that, quite honestly, it really doesn't even exist. It's made up for us, and we think it's linear, and it's not linear. So we're going to jump into all kinds of really great.
Well, I like what you said a little bit ago. You said, I'm glad everybody showed up on time this morning, since we're talking about time. It's a useful tool.
It is.
I mean, it's extremely helpful psychologically. It can help you in a lot of different ways, but experientially, life is only ever happening right now.
Right now.
And a lot of our issues come from basically being elsewhere, being either in the past or in the future, or basically mentally being somewhere other than where our body is currently.
Well, it's fun because this has spiritual implications.
That's all talking, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You think about, I was thinking this morning as I was taking a little walk that there's a scripture that says, time, what an empty vapor, tis. An empty vapor, it evaporates. It just, right? It can be gone. And time is also scientific relative. You think of the theory of relativity. Einstein's theory of relativity is all, time is a key element within that principle and that concept. So there's a lot of really cool directions we can take this. One of the things I think is really important too about this podcast is that, some people this isn't about religion. This is just about knowledge. Whether the knowledge is coming from a religion, whether it's coming from philosophy, whether it's coming from psychology, whether it's coming from science, all of them are trying to answer the same basic questions.
From different avenues, different ways, different approaches,
different perspectives, different language. And again, I hope that comes across as we go through our conversations, that this is really as we would use in our world, cross-functional, right? It cuts across so many different elements of life and knowledge that hopefully it will appeal to different people in different ways. So based on that, as we start to move into our conversation, I think it's really important for us to notice just how often our attention leaves the present moment. Think about what's already happened. We think about what's going to happen next. So we're either in the past or we're in the future, as Joel just said. So it's really important that we explore this and express what it means to us in our own lives. So let's go back to the past here. How does the past show up in your present experience?
The past shows up not necessarily as actual events, but more like patterns. You get emotional reactions to certain things. You remember certain moments, then strikes a memory. But even though that event is over, if my body can still respond to it as if it's still happening. And that's one thing that I've come to learn through reading Dr. Joe Dispenza, is that he talks a lot about how the body becomes the mind of the past. We hold so much of our past in our bodies. And we think that we're reacting to this moment when a memory comes in, but it's actually just us reacting from a memory. And that have full implications. Your body can literally feel like it's still in that moment. If I needed to, or if I wanted to, not say needed to, if I wanted to, I could go back to the time and relive the moments when Katie died.
Mm.
And I would break down. I would relive those exact same emotions. My body wouldn't know any different. It would think it was in that exact moment again in the past. It doesn't understand that it's not happening right now. But because my mind relives those past memories, it reacts the exact same way. So those emotions come back. That overwhelming feeling can come back. Crying can come back. Even though nothing about right now it would be happening. So the past can be extremely useful. It teaches us. We learn from those experiences. I've had many, many learning experiences. It's a great teacher. If you're able to go back into those moments, relive them again, figure out what did I do wrong or what could I have done better, they can teach you so much. You don't have to repeat the same pattern. But it's interesting how the body can react in the present moment as if it was in the past.
There's a book we reference a couple different times in our recommended readings episodes of the Awakening podcast called The Body Keeps Score.
Mm-hmm.
And it really touches on how we hold in our body all of these experiences, and especially those that you don't deal with thoroughly, right? Or completely.
Those are the ones that get stuck.
They get stuck. And those oftentimes, those translate into sickness, disease, some sort of illness. And we wonder, you talk about that's a situation where holding on to the past manifests itself in events in the future.
So when you hold on to the past that strongly, and you want, say, whether that's good or bad, so you can hold on to a specific event that's bad and it caused you to be angry, upset, resentful, or you can hold on to memories that are super good and you wish life was still like that. You wish you still had those moments. You wish you still lived in that time. That causes depression.
Yeah, that's lack, right? That's the concept. I lack something,
right,
that I had. Now I don't have it.
So it comes out physically as those symptoms.
Yep.
So I agree. The past definitely shows up in memories and experiences, and I think that's why this awakening is so important, because we're trying to remember the past. And not only our current past, but everything. So when you say, how does the past show up in present experiences? I think that it's, again, just how far back are we going to go when we talk about past? Because I think that it can show up. Is it just your current life? Is it past lives? Is it, and I don't know exactly how I'm going to go with this, but current past, if we start going into quantum thinking, there's a lot going on with time. And when we start talking about past, and this is something that has gotten into my head a lot lately too, because of how my brain is thinking about time. And the more I meditate and start seeing how time passes or doesn't pass during some things, my past means something different to me. And it doesn't sit with me the same way that it once did. So I can remember a lot of the things that I have gone through. I can also, like Joel said, you feel the memories, you feel the emotions. I do very strongly if I stop to look at pictures, listen to music, think about what has happened in the past. I can call that back up too, but I don't think that I am, and none of us are, I understand this, the same people that we were in the past. We change, we
Evolve.
Thank you. There's the word.
Mhm.
And we handle things differently than we did then. So the same feelings that we experienced then, we don't process them the same way that we did then as we do now.
Well, you've touched on a belief that we have to ask at this point, I think. Number one, do you believe that this is our only life?
Absolutely
That
not.
that this past of this life is the only past that may be influencing or impacting our current time or situation?
Yeah, I personally do not.
I did for the longest time. I thought we are one and done. This is it. You only have one life. And as who I am in this life, there's just one, but I believe we have many lives. I believe in reincarnation. I believe we come through this experience multiple times. And I think that there are elements of past incarnations that we bring into this life that we deal with. It's a part of our soul contracts that we'll touch on in future episodes.
That one and done concept is a pretty good fear tactic.
Yeah.
That's why it's ingrained in so many.
Well, you think, to Joe's point, this is part of the concept that is difficult for people when you speak about time, because they're confined in this short little span that is one lifetime. And here's the other kicker, and hopefully we'll touch on this, is that all of the lifetimes that you've had, if you believe that, are all happening at the same time.
You're just making
Right?
everyone's heads explode now.
It's time is multidimensional. So all of those experiences are actually going on, past, present, and future at the same time in layers. And I even people that are of Christian beliefs, there are scriptures, and you almost have to purposely overlook them, that teach this. There is the story of the disciples after Jesus was healing a person of his blindness. And they asked him, they said, why is this person blind from birth? Was it his parents that sinned that caused it, or was it his sin that caused it? Well, wait a minute, disciples, what do you mean by that? How could he have sinned and caused himself to be blind at birth? There had to be some opportunity before his birth for him to have sinned, or that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And you would think if Jesus didn't believe that this person had a past life, he would have said, you morons, what in the world are you talking about? How could he have had any sin? He hadn't even been born yet. But he didn't. He didn't say that to him. So you have to purposely overlook situations like that. Right? So I'm telling you, time, again, it can be a prison in our, and it causes so much confusion.
Well, that's kind of the whole root of the word nostalgia. So, I'm not a nostalgic person. So nostalgia is basically the breakdown. It's nostos, which is to return home. Algia meaning the pain of wanting to return home. So I should say it's the pain, so pain and distress. So the combination is the pain of wanting to return home. So it causes us anxiety. It causes us, frustration when we want something to be like it was in the past. And when we hang on to those memories and we cling to them, that causes suffering. At times it's cool to see something that's old from, when you were younger. But if you cling to it, if you hold on to it, it can just cause you to be miserable.
You're always wanting it instead of what you have.
Right.
I love to use this in my training with different people. Happiness is an equation. Happiness is what you have minus what you want. And if what you want is different than what you have, you're not going to be very happy. If you want the past, you're not happy with the now. If you want the future, you can't be happy with the now. And life doesn't exist in the past or the future. We'll talk about that. It's only now. So, all right, Sherri, reel us in here.
I'm the anchor, man.
Right.
Yeah, this is a really profound topic. So let's just be honest about it. There's a lot of things within time that, and I think I'm just dittoing my colleagues here as we talk through this, but I like it. I could be in a car and a old song comes up on the radio and it's like, wow, I remember back when that was really cool. I had a really good time. Or I could pass something, en route that triggers a thought that, we were there last year and then we had like this big thing. And so there are elements of time that trigger your thoughts that are good. And then there's things, obviously, we've all experienced it in our lives that pop up in our minds that invoke fear and anxiety that are not so pleasant, right? I think all of it together kind of in this world molds you into who you are. It's just being able to understand something that I struggle with is being able to live in the here and now, right? The interesting thing, and as I was listening to you talk, Jeff, is sometimes in time, I think I've been a place that I have no explanation of how I would have ever been there, but I'm like, I know I was here before.
It's a deja vu kind of
Right. It's a deja vu. So explaining that, is that like a space where we want to transport ourselves into something that we wish to be, or have we even experienced it? And again, this is another topic, some other aspect in life that we've, in this journey of reincarnation and things like that. So in my life, I've had a lot of deja vus. And I have yet to kind of explain that, but it had to happen somewhere in time, right? So that's kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah, for me, the past, I look back, I think I've mentioned this a couple of times on the podcast. I look back at my past and I recognize how every element of it has prepared me for the now, for exactly what I'm doing right now. And I think the universe tends to work with us in that way. And I think it even can be elements of past lives, that experiences that we had in those lives show up in the now in preparation for whatever it is we came here to be and do in this particular incarnation. And to me, it's beautiful. And it's interesting because I was listening to another podcast, because I'm a podcast person. And it was talking about, and I hear people use the term describing our life as a tapestry. You think of these beautiful tapestries, they're art, they're pieces of art that are made out of strings, right? But if you look at that tapestry from the front, it may be full of beauty and it makes sense. Turn that tapestry around and all you see is strings.
Organized chaos.
It's chaos. It makes no sense whatsoever, right? And sometimes I think it depends on which direction we're looking at the tapestry. Are we looking at it from the front where you can see the beauty of all the pieces that came together, or are you looking at it from the back where all you see is chaos? Nothing
You're
seems to be.
You're seeing what's holding it all together.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I love that analogy though, because it's such a visual experience. But I do believe that I feel strongly that my present experience, Sherri's point, has been shaped by things I experienced in the past in preparation for. All of that has been training. All of that has been development. All of that has been, and all of it, even the difficult things, are beautiful. They're all beautiful.
Yeah, it's a hard lesson.
Tough lesson. Tough lesson. So let's talk about memory versus reality. Have you ever noticed how the way we remember things can shape how we feel today?
It's everything, because memories are not just factual archives. They're not objective. They're basically an active interpretation. So we can go through the exact same experience together, but interpret it completely differently when we think back on it memory-wise. So we're not simply just remembering what happened. We're feeling what we've attached to when it happened. We're tied to emotions. We're tied to the memory of it. So if we attach to it, Eckhart Tolle would say basically our memories turn into identities. We become what we experienced. Then you contrast that with somebody like Joe Dispenza, and he would say our memories just reinforcing our neural pathways. They're saying the same thing, but the point is that basically whatever we have experienced, it's not just it's just not a factual, objective memory. It's going to be tied to what you felt in that moment, what you experienced, and it completely can shape your reality on how you go forward from that point.
I know for me, I've learned that I can change my memory of an event.
Absolutely, if you sit and think about it long enough, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you will take the space between and process that experience over and over, you can change what you originally remember it to be into something different.
Yeah. And you can also say, so it's a huge, powerful tool to do that, because like I said, you can go through that multiple times and see it in different ways, see it in different perspectives. Those are great meditations. If you want to sit with a moment, something that's on your mind, sit there and look at it in the different ways. Look at it maybe from a different viewpoint, from someone else's viewpoint. How did it look to them? And you can learn so much from those moments. It's an extremely powerful psychological tool. That's why our mind is absolutely an incredible tool. It can be used to do so many great things. It can also cause a lot of problems if you don't control it. But
let me ask you a question though. Are you changing the memory of what happened, or are you just changing how you think about the memory that happened? Because you're still analyzing the exact same memory. You're just looking at it a different way. You're not remembering anything new. The same event happened. You were still there at the same place at the same time of everything that happened. You're just analyzing it and thinking about it differently. Nothing new is coming in.
Right. But the question is, how can the way we remember things shape how we feel today?
Sure.
I felt about that event, that, in time past was different than I feel about that event today.
Because you're taking the new you to how you are now and
you're
analyzing
seeing it from different
differently.
Perspectives, a perspective you couldn't process it through, a lens that you didn't have available to you to see it.
Right.
Yes,
you're tools.
looking at the same experience.
Yep.
But your memory, which is inside you, can change.
Great example has happened this week. My wife was going through old pictures of our family and came across a picture of an old girlfriend of mine. And it brought back memories of which I don't usually sit and think about, because it was a different lifetime ago. It was half a lifetime ago time-wise, and it was one that doesn't have any effect on me currently. But I remember the day that her and I ended and what caused it. Now, when I was in that moment and for the days and months after, that feeling of that memory of that moment is very different now when I've actually gone through it over and over in my head through different times in the years, where I realize what I did wrong or what caused the issue to cause our relationship to break apart. And I realized it. I process it differently now. I see the lesson in it. I see that, and I can be appreciative of it. So the pain and of a breakup when you're young is gone, but now I can actually analyze that moment and learn from it. So I have a completely different reaction or a different memory of it now because of that. Yeah. It didn't change, like you said, Joe. It didn't change the details. It didn't change what happened. Mm-hmm. But it changed. It's changing my reality now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have new tools, right? We have new tools to look at the past with. That makes sense. Yeah, yeah, and that feeds right into mine. I mean, so I think you answered my question that I had, which also, I think answers the way I think about things and how it can change as well. So as we grow, we have the new tools to look at and experience the old previous memories with. So yeah, pretty fun.
As always, I did all the conversation. I think that, again, as you grow in your space, and everybody's not at the same point. I mean, I know people that still hold on to things in their past that are bad, or they felt were bad at the time, or still feel that they're bad, and it really does impact where they are in life right now. I mean, they're still holding on grudges, and people are no longer with us, and they still are thinking about the thing that happened that made them, and they're still mad about that. And I think as we become more in tune to who we are and realize that life is just not always about us, that gives you a different perspective on how you view things that at the time seemed so serious and so impactful. But then but at that time you're looking at the lens only from your perspective. And it's only when we grow to really understand that it's just not about us, that there's bigger things, bigger lessons that we have to learn, is when we begin to change the view or how we view different things in our life that happened in the past. So
you make me think that, forgiveness is one of the tools that we've been given to be able to deal with the past. I think one of the biggest issues we've got to address here is that you've got to acknowledge and deal with the past. Acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge that it happened, that things happen. If you don't, those things will get stuck. They get stuck in your body. They get stuck in your heart and your mind. The Christian scriptures called them roots of bitterness. They have a root of bitterness, and that root of bitterness has a tendency to manifest in illness and sickness and various things. And forgiveness is not for the person you're forgiving that changes or alchemizes that memory. It's for you. If you choose not to forgive somebody, that's like taking poison and hoping they die from it, right? That doesn't make any sense either. So forgiveness is for you to be able to alchemize an experience in the past so that you can not let it manage or control you in the current time, right, in your present. And, I take those experiences, and I do think they help us today. We have to be careful sometimes that our memories don't create stories that we refuse to allow to change.
If not, it becomes your identity.
Right.
You become wrapped up into it. So like what Sherri mentioned, talking about people just being attached to something in the past, it makes me think of the stereotype of that in the movies of that jock, that the quarterback of the football team that won at state, whatever. And you come back to them 10, 15 years later in town, and they're still the exact same person. They're still that guy reliving and talking about that story over and over and over and living about it. And they don't ever leave that moment. and their life is in shambles because they've not let it go. That was what they are. And they can't if they don't let go of that, if they let go of that identity, all of a sudden they're not that anymore and they don't want that. They want to be that person.
Right.
But it created a complete identity around it. And to your point, there's got to be forgiveness. We think of forgiveness of just forgiving others. We have to realize that a lot of times you have to forgive yourself.
Totally.
You have to have grace with yourself. In fact, if you can't do that, it's kind of hard to forgive other people. There's so much power in being able to go back into these memories, live in those times, and forgive yourself for making a mistake because you didn't know any better. You knew what you knew at that time, but you have to forgive yourself because you didn't know.
Yep.
You hadn't learned the lesson yet, and that was the lesson.
Well, this also, I think, touches on the fact that if you hear people say, oh, it was so much better in the past. It was better 10 years ago. Things were better. I wish we could go back to, and all they're doing is living in the past. They're living in a memory of the past and at the expense of their present reality.
Right.
And you've got to acknowledge the reality of your current situation. You have to.
Well, if not, you're just going to cause suffering.
Yeah, that's what suffering is, right? Suffering. And you know what you're doing there? It just hits me as we're sitting here talking. You're really separate. You're not unified with the present. You're separate from the present.
You're not in your body. You're in a different time.
Yeah. And this also hit me today as I'm on my short little walk. We really are time machines.
Yeah.
We are all individually time machines.
Your mind is.
Right?
Your mind is, and I've said this to you guys before, that your body is never anywhere but the present moment. It physically cannot be in the past. It cannot be in the future. It is literally the only thing in the present moment.
It's here to ground us.
Correct. To live in the moment, you have to live in your body. You have to be here.
That's what meditation, to breathe, think, remember, I'm breathing.
But yes,
right now.
The mind is a time machine.
Yeah.
It allows you to go backwards. It allows you to go forwards.
Yeah. Yep.
But meditation is also the ability to help you connect to your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And your mind can wander through your time, but the importance is to be one with all three.
Yep.
Right. And that's where the unity comes in, is to bring all three together, your mind, body, and spirit. So your body is forced to live here in the present, no matter what you think. Right. Your mind can wander through time. Right. And bringing it back here to the present is where it has to coexist with the body.
All right, so I'm going to throw. Let me throw a curveball. I love this. We talk about the body as though we only have one body. We have a physical body which can only be in the now.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think also that we have other bodies?
Multiple. Energy body, etheric body. You have
astral bodies that can mental bodies.
Mm-hmm.
That can, it's funny because there's a term called the silver cord. And the silver cord is the element that connects our astral body, which is not physical. It not doesn't have the same kind of substance to it, right?
Yeah.
To our natural body. And it can go all kinds of places, past, present, and future. Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, what we do at night. That's when you dream. You can dream about the past. You can dream about the future. And I think at night we astrally travel. I think we separate from our body and can go in many directions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe?
Yeah.
The whole concept of astral projection, out of body experience. Interesting and fascinating study, right? Of who and how we interact. That changes the dynamic of time, though. If you believe that, you have to realize that changes the dynamic of time. So, all right. So let's talk about future thinking. This is probably I'm a futurist. Just who my personality is, how my personality is. So how often do you find yourself thinking about what's next? And how does that affect your ability to be present?
I'm constantly thinking about what's next. And if I'm not careful, and I'm not aware of it, it can cause problems. Now, our mind loves unfinished business. It loves to plan things. It loves to go into the future. It loves to anticipate. It loves to control. Is the biggest problem. And if I notice I'm mentally preoccupied with what's next, I'm not here. I'm not in the present moment. Now, there's we've talked about this earlier, where there is useful things to time. Now, there's two different types of time, and Eckhart Tolle talks about that. There's clock time and there's psychological time. Okay? Clock time is very useful. It allows us to meet here at 9:00 this morning to have this conversation. Without that, we wouldn't have been able to get together. We got to plan that, and that's useful. But psychological time is the mind's compulsion to attach to the past or the future, and we tend to always think about what's next. I know I do, because I'm so busy with family life and coaching 2 different teams with soccer and softball, and planning ahead. All right, what do I got to get ready for tomorrow with work? I've got this project I got to deal with. I'm constantly in my head thinking about that, and if I don't stop to become aware of that, it can take over, and I can just lose out on the little moments that are going on around me. I can lose out on rest. I'm actually, taking a day like today where I don't have as much going on and actually enjoying it. I can ruin my rest by constantly thinking about what I got to do tomorrow. We stop being, if we're constantly thinking about what we need to be doing, we become, like we say, we become human doings and not human beings. I learn, you got to learn to slow down and come back to the present moment. But yeah, future thinking happens constantly, and the mind loves it.
Yeah. I am very bad about doing this as well, to the point where I don't get the stuff done that I need to get done, because I'm always thinking about, what else do I need to do? What else do I need to do? Don't worry about what else you need to do. Get done what's already on your list. I have a list of things I want to get done for the day most days, and when I look at it at the end of the day, that stuff's still on my list. But I've still done stuff, but the stuff that's still on my list is still on my list. Because I'm always thinking about, okay, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. I'm always thinking about what's next. And yeah, it's difficult for me to stay in the moment, because I'm always thinking about what's next, what's ahead, what am I thinking about here, what's going on. So yeah, it's tough for me, because I guess I'm a futurist as well. Always thinking about, what am I going to do going forward.
Sound like
I would
my wife.
rather, I would much rather I'd much rather look into the future than look at the now or the past. But I am understanding that the now is important. Much more now, much more so than
Much more now. I knew you were getting ready to say it.
Pun intended.
Pun intended. So yeah. Yeah, it definitely affects my ability to be present.
Wow. I full disclosure, I feel like I'm somewhat of a control person. So
Hi, my name is Sherri,
hi,
and I'm a control person.
That's the
I'm a
first step.
control person. Just coming out.
Welcome, Sherri.
Thank you. Because I spend too much time trying to control the future, and not really understanding that you don't always have the ability to do that. So, my thought is, you have a plan in order to achieve a goal. So I spend a lot of time checking off the tasks as a part of that plan to achieve this future goal that I need to be able to control. And in doing that, it's I'm never living in the here and the now. I'm never smelling the roses, because I'm always thinking about the fact that I think these 15 things need to be done in order for me to get to this ultimate goal that I vision, or whatever that I have in my mind. I mean, I'm experiencing it now, just in life, with just a lot of different variables that are going on, and having a huge struggle from a perspective of, I don't really control any of these things, but I'm pretending that I'm walking through life as though I am. controlling those things. And so it is very hard to live in the here and the now, and in the space that I'm in currently right now.
Well,
So, but
anybody who's been around me for any period of time knows that I'm a strategic thinker. I'm a future planner. That's probably one of the greatest gifts I bring to organizations, is the ability to see things that don't exist today in my mind and then create them in reality. Everything is created first in the mind. I think the difference that I'm learning is that before, I thought I was the one that had to put all the planning together to make that happen. And what I'm finding personally is I love having the thought, but then I have to let the thought go and let the universe take it and let the universe do the work. And I, by faith, sit and watch it happen. I have had more success approaching things that way in these last few years than I have ever had in my life. And it is by far the most difficult thing for me, because I felt like I needed to be driving and controlling and pushing and here's what my experience is teaching me. Number one, you can do those things and things will happen, but the result may not be anywhere near as good as if you had just let the universe do the work.
You're trying to control the outcome.
Yes. And we have limited minds, limited thought, the universe is not limited.
Right.
The universe can do things that are significantly bigger, better, and more powerful for you than you can do yourself.
Right.
You just have to trust. You have to trust and believe that you are a co-creator, not the creator. You are a co-creator with the universe, with God, with whatever you want to call source. And that has been so incredibly liberating. And it's magical to watch as things unfold. And it unfolds in a way so much better and so much more perfect than what if I had been driving it myself.
You're seeing that with this podcast.
Totally.
So you're letting go of the outcomes and controlling the outcomes and letting it, because this podcast is something where you can control the outcome, because you don't have any control over where it goes and who touches it and who sees it and who experiences it and gets something out of it. Those outcomes come without you.
Now, I will tell you, though, there's a lot of pressure. I get pressure even from the different resources we use to create this, to advertise, to use social media and various things like that to promote and could I grow the audience using those tools? Yes, I can. But that's not what this is about. My role in this is to take the thoughts that have been given me and to download them and create. And then I think I've said this before. If the universe cared enough to drop this into me, then the universe obviously has an audience for it. And I am confident that at the right time and for the right purpose and that it will connect to the right people. And that's what I think we're going to see. That's what we're seeing happen. And it will take on the path that the universe has laid for it, not me. I could push this try to push it into a mainstream audience that it's not made for them.
Yeah.
This isn't made for everybody. This content is not for everybody. It's not. I don't know who the person is that needs to hear it. The universe knows.
Mm-hmm.
God knows. And to just let go of that and not be trying to push it. The other thing I have to watch is the tendency to look at the statistics every day. You know what when I do stuff like that, it's like looking at your bank account every day.
It just makes you
why do you do that? You trust that it's not there? Is there a lack? I mean, what is it? It's a lack of faith, a lack of trust, a desire to control, all those elements. And all that does is constrict and constrain, and it creates anxiety, and it creates depression, and it creates all of these psychological issues that we've touched on peripherally here because of how we view time, right? So
Yeah.
I'm guilty. I'm totally guilty of future thinking. I mean, it is just who I am. And I'm not sorry for it, because I think it's such a unique, not everybody can do it. In fact, most people are not wired to be able to see and think future and create. So it's a gift, but every gift also can be a curse.
Well, and the problem is that some of us that think in the future, like I can think one move into the future, and that's dangerous, but not as dangerous as someone like you who's thinking 4 or 5 moves into the future, or 7 or 10. And that's why I'm distracted by it, right? And that's because I'm just seeing far enough to say, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? I can, as somebody that has worked for you for the last several years, I appreciate the fact that you do the planning and then let the universe take over. Because in work, we're part of that universe. So I have learned a lot by you not giving me the direct, okay, go do this, 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 and this. You've left it open to us to figure out how that needs to be done. And because of that, I have gotten to learn so much, because I'm not having to follow and do it just your way. You've left that open. And because of that, I've had to learn a lot, and I'm grateful for that. And that's just been the path that I've gotten to follow here. And it's been wonderful. That I wouldn't have had with other leaders necessarily. Because they would have said, no, you have to do it this way. And these are the steps that you have to follow. And I wouldn't have learned as much, because I wouldn't have had that opportunity. So
That's awesome. I appreciate that. Very kind.
yeah. Well, and true. So I appreciate it as well. It's been great. But yeah, thank you. And it's just something I think that a lot of people also need to hear about, the opportunity to let things go and let things develop. There's great things that can happen because of it.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. That's going to be the last thing we touch on before we finish up, letting go. So let's talk real quick about the feeling of being present. So can you describe a moment when you felt fully present in something, and what's different about that experience?
Right now, this deep conversation, fully present. I'm not thinking about what I have to do later today. I'm not thinking about what happened yesterday. I'm in the moment right now. I'm just sitting and listening. It's, I still have some internal dialogue. I mean, you can have times where the internal dialogue really quiets down, and that's presence. But the mind's always talking. We've talked about that in previous podcasts. It's always chatting in the background. But I'm sitting here, I mean, in the present moment. So, I mean, when you can have good, deep conversations with people, not just the superficial gossip, it pulls you into the present moment. At least for me, it does. We've talked about it before. Nature can do that. If you can just take a walk and silence the mind and just be in the energetic, the perfect energy of nature, it can bring you into the present moment. That's my favorite. One of my favorite things to do is just be quiet and walk. But yes, I mean, it doesn't have to be profound. It's not like this, magical experience. Is usually just a quiet peace.
So I agree with you 100% with the conversation piece here. This is one of the few times when I just do not want to pick up my phone, and conversations like this, and especially these conversations, I love, and I'm sitting here also in the moment. Also meditation. Now, walking for me is definitely not a meditation. If I were to go for a walk, my mind would wander everywhere. So for me, walking is not a meditative state. Even if I was out in
you remember how you felt about meditation in general.
Correct. And I love to meditate. For me, walking is not a meditation. And maybe it's where I'm walking. That very well could be it too, right? So if I did go out into nature and walk, that might be totally different than me just walking around my neighborhood. So maybe it's the environment. But going into my backyard, going into my place where I do meditate, that is also a place where I get to come into the here and now and be totally in the present.
Well, conversation, obviously, when people are reaching out to you for dialogue and you're just there, whatever capacity, is a great feeling of being in the here and now. For me, I like, even, during the holidays, I really like decorating trees, and it's like my therapy. And at that point, I'm just like in the zone. I'm I'm balancing control and creativity all together, so it all works well, and planning. So it's just you feel good. You feel like that you're in a space that is, unjudgmental, that is safe, that is filling your heart with creativity and happiness. Um, so being in the here and now for me means represents all those things. That I don't like to be interrupted while I'm being creative in that space. Um, when I'm focusing and being there for a friend, in every way I can, then that is me being there for them and not being distracted. So that's
So
my
to me,
perspective.
time evaporates. When we talk about, time, what an empty vapor it is, when you're in a moment of flow and presence in what you're doing. I think you all have kind of touched on the fact that, we've been talking for almost an hour. Does it feel like an hour?
No.
No, because you're in that presence, you're in that moment, and time at that point doesn't feel the same. It's different. And, there are times and situations where time can't move fast enough because I am so not in that moment. So this is why finding that creative work, that thing that you're passionate about, that when you're doing it, time doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Would you say it's almost eternal?
It is eternal. It is the eternal now.
Mm.
And, I think this is also important, not only from a micro perspective in this particular moment, but it can also be viewed from a macro perspective. Give you an example. If I've had multiple lifetimes, those other lifetimes, past or present, or past or future, don't exist in the reality. This lifetime is the now, right? And given that, you can experience your entire life from that perspective. I'm learning that I believe time, number one, I think our bodies were created to live and exist much longer than what we tend to. And I think the way we view our life has an effect on that. I think if you buy into the story that you only are going to live so many years, or that when you reach a certain age, this is how you should look or feel or act and blah, and you let those stories, guess what? You let that story drive your thoughts, that's exactly what you're going to experience in life.
Yeah, don't let the old man in.
Don't let the old man in.
Yeah.
Don't let that old man, don't let those old thoughts, don't let that thought, because as soon as you do, that seed gets planted. And by the way, the universe doesn't have a sense of humor. It doesn't really.
It doesn't care.
It doesn't understand sarcasm.
It doesn't understand good and bad. It just gives you whatever it is you want to create.
Whatever it is you want or you think, it will respond. This is why you've got to be so careful about what you think and what you say. And a lot of the things you say in the past will manifest later in the future. Don't be surprised sometimes when certain things happen. If you go back and think about it, you planted that seed years ago. So there's all kinds of elements of this that I think are, but to me, time, I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. In many cases, I'm in a flow. When time, I can't even feel it. It's just gone. It just moved, right? And I think that presence is, there's a peacefulness to that. there's a peace to it. There's a joy that is a part of that I think is absolutely beautiful. So let's talk about letting go. What's it look like to begin releasing the need to hold on to the past or control the future? What would that look like and feel like?
You can't erase memories as much as you want to sometimes. And nor can you abandon planning, like we've talked about. We have to actually have clock time. We have to use that to interact with each other in the world, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the biggest thing for me, it's about loosening your identification with those memories or with those future plans. Don't attach yourself or your identity to it. You can mentally prepare yourself for the future, but don't live there is a big key thing. And when you do that, you're just basically, your body responds with anxiety because it's trying to live in a moment that doesn't exist. It chemically doesn't understand it. So it basically, you get tense, you get anxious. So it's finding a way to balance all of those things, using it for your benefit, learning from the past, being able to prepare for the future and what you want it to look like. But like we said as well, try not to attach to the outcome of it. Let the universe lead you there. Go with the flow. We talked about before with The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. He talks about that. Like basically, as soon as he let go, all of a sudden his life took off in ways he could have never imagined. If he had tried to control it, it wouldn't have happened that way. And we struggle with that. Our minds want the control because we feel like we know best.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes from a good place.
Guilty.
It comes from a good place. It's not necessarily. We have good intentions, but we've got to learn to over and over, day in and day out, to detach from it. Do your due diligence with life. Continue to work on yourself, but don't get hung up on what it should have been, because all that is suffering. And who has time for that?
Kind of like a self-containing hell, right? You
Yeah.
gotta
We create our own
yourself
hells.
liberate yourself to be free. I don't see time like a prison, like we've been talking and comparing it to. I see it more like a trap, right? Not necessarily a prison, but a trap. It's kind of like the maze. And it's not bad, it's not evil. But it is more like a confining loop, right? Where you're stuck in it. You can't get away from it. When you free yourself of it, just like you said, Joel, it's liberating.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it doesn't happen all at once, right? And it won't be you won't totally be free of it all the time, but those short escapes, Jeff, for you, it's a walk, right? For me, I get out, I box, I can meditate, some of the stuff that you really enjoy. I like to do Lego, these conversations, each week. So what we can stop and enjoy doing, I think that's the things we seek out, we can do, we can help ourselves. So find what evaporates that time. Do more of it. So
Just realizing that, it's a journey, doesn't happen overnight for us to grow in that space. I am be full disclosure, I have a journey to go through in understanding the importance of enjoying the here and the now. And I think I keep saying, like, take time to smell the roses for today. I think part of that growth and development is going to start with being able to, at times when it gets difficult, to really realize the here and the now, to be able to quiet yourself and filter out the noise. For me, that's been very important. because life is going to give you a lot of noise. It's up to you. This is the part you can control. What of that noise you're going to allow in? And this is one point in time where, as a human being, you're a little allowed to be selfish and give yourself grace and say that just for today, that noise that that I feel is surrounding me, I'm not going to allow that to define my day and my moment and my space. And that takes time, and I am still in that journey of doing that. But once you've had an opportunity to do that just once, I mean, it's a good feeling. You feel so much pressure relieved in that space. So know that we're all in that space. We're all in this journey. We live this imperfect life. So, but learning how to cope and have those tools and understanding and teachings and listening to people like we're doing on this podcast to really understand that, one, we're not alone, and that there are things that we can do to help us through that journey of understanding the value of time.
I can't help but have the song from Frozen go through my head.
Yeah.
Let it go, let it go. And for me, that's probably been one of the most powerful changes in my awakening time, is letting go of the need to control.
I'm shocked you went with Let It Go from Frozen and not Let It Be by the Beatles.
Okay. Let it be.
Either one. They're both good.
They're both great songs. They both have the same basic meaning. Yeah, I love Let It Be too. I think back when I was younger, I didn't like the Beatles. I thought they were evil. And now, as I look back and look at their life and look at what they went through and how they went through their awakenings and the content behind their music, I love and appreciate them significantly. And I do think that that's a wonderful example of a song, Let It Be, that really allows, this teaching to come to life. I've had to give up the desire to control outcomes, to control the future, because I thought I knew best. I thought I knew what was right and best. And again, I'm finding that I'm being much more successful detaching from the outcome, allowing things to happen. And I can honestly tell you, it is much less stressful. It's much less difficult when you do that and trust that God, the universe, the source, has our best interest at heart, that it's infinitely loving, infinitely giving, and can do exceeding abundantly above all that we could ever ask or think. And I trust that, and I believe that with all my heart. It's life-changing. And if you're struggling, with control, think about how many people are suffering from depression. And depression tends to come from an over-fixated view on the past. And then you look at people who are suffering from anxiety in our society and world today, which is an over-fixation and desire to control the future. And all of them are missing the beauty of the now. And I think that's the essence of what we're trying to touch on here. So, maybe time isn't really the challenge, but how we relate to it. And maybe the invitation is not to control time, but to return to the present again and again and again, every day. This is like most practices. This is not something you do one time. You have to do it all the time. Not just every day, but multiple times throughout the day. And this is where our podcast called Living Heaven on Earth comes in. The practices we share in that are really designed to help us to give us different ways of stopping, slowing down, reconnecting with the present, reconnecting with source, and grounding ourselves so that we can overcome that pull of the past and the future. So as we close this conversation, it's really worth remembering that the past only exists as memory and that the future only exists as a possibility. And yet we often live as if both of them are actually happening right now. I often think about people who are having thoughts about both the past and the future, and they really think that that's happening right now.
Because their body doesn't live anywhere but the present. So the body's experiencing those emotions and of those thoughts right now.
Yep.
And the more you do it over and over, the more it becomes your reality.
Yep. But life is always right here. So Joel, Joe, Sherri, thanks again for this wonderful conversation. And for those of you that are listening to the podcast, I hope this episode invites you to slow down, pause, even just briefly, and return to this present moment. And hope that that can be enough. And with that, the space between continues. As we come to a close, remember that this journey continues in many expressions. This podcast is part of a family of partner podcasts. Awakening Heaven on Earth. The space between heaven and earth and Living Heaven on Earth are 3 companion podcasts exploring spiritual awakening from complementary perspectives. Awakening Heaven on Earth offers the core teachings and mystical reflections on unity, love, and conscious living. The space between creates room for dialogue, reflection, and lived conversation around those teachings. Living Heaven on Earth focuses on basic spiritual practices that help embody these insights in daily life. Together, they form a unified journey of understanding, experience, and integration, inviting listeners to remember their connection with the divine, with one another, and with the living world. You can find all of them available on the same podcast streaming platforms wherever you listen. And if music helps carry these teachings deeper into the heart, the Unity, Awakening Heaven on Earth album is available on all major music streaming services as a musical companion to this journey. Wherever you engage through listening, reflection, conversation, or music, may it gently remind you you are not separate. You belong to the one life. And heaven is already unfolding within you. Until next time, walk gently, love deeply, and embody heaven on earth.